phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Going into the 2021 college football season, Spencer Rattler had a lot of hype surrounding his name. He was seen as the Heisman frontrunner. He was projected to be the number 1 pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, and people were expecting him to lead Oklahoma to the promised land and possibly a national championship. Fast forward a few months later, he has not met any of those expectations. He's not seen as a Heisman frontrunner. He's not seen as a first-round pick going into this year's NFL Draft, and he's currently the second-string quarterback behind Caleb Williams. This is B. Kelly, back again with another banger video. In today's video, y'all, I am going to be talking about the truth about Spencer Rattler. Now, before I move on with the video, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, as we are on the road to 10K. Now, let's get into it. To start this video off, I will be kicking it back to high school at Pinnacle High, and I'm mainly doing this because not everybody keeps up with current college football players and what they did as a high school player or what they were as a recruit, so we're going to kick it back to Pinnacle. At Pinnacle High School, Spencer Rattler was the guy from day one. He was a starting quarterback on the varsity level as a freshman quarterback on the high school level, and he had a solid season as well, as he threw for 2,381 yards, had a total of 19 passing touchdowns, and only 9 interceptions, while completing 56% of his passes and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Pinnacle High School went 5-6 in this season. As a sophomore, he led Pinnacle to a 6-6 record, while having a better statistical season than he did as a freshman, as in this season he threw for 2,893 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, while completing about 63% of his passes and rushing for 462 yards on the ground, averaging 6 yards per carry, and 5 total touchdowns on the ground as well. In his junior campaign, the team would get better, and so would Rattler, as Rattler led them to a 9-4 record, and Rattler would have his best season of high school football yet, as he threw for 3,946 yards, completing 65% of his passes, 45 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, while rushing for a total of 4 touchdowns on the ground. For his senior season, he was featured on the show QB1, where he was one of 3 quarterbacks featured in that season. Now, Spencer Rattler as a senior would play in a total of 7 games, leading Pinnacle to a record of 6-1. He would not play his entire senior season because of a suspension. Now, why he was suspended for the entire year, it is really unknown, and I'm not going to guess or say some of the rumors that people have, because I do not know what's going on and what happened, so I'm not going to speak on it. But in his senior season, he had a good year when he was actually playing, as he completed 67% of his passes, threw for 1,863 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, and a total of 3 touchdowns on the ground. He would end his high school career with over 11,000 passing yards, completing 62% of his passes, while having a total of 116 touchdowns through the air and only 33 interceptions in 4 seasons. And on the ground for his career, he rushed for 1,040 yards, averaging 4 yards per carry and 14 total touchdowns on the ground. He was also an All-American and the Elite 11 Finals MVP. In the 2019 recruiting class as a recruit, Spencer Rattler was very highly touted, as he was a 5-star recruit, the number 11 player in the nation, and the number 1 quarterback in his class. When it came down to make a decision, he would end up committing to a school with a very good quarterback track record, especially as of recent, and that was none other than Oklahoma. In the 2019 college football season, as a true freshman, Spencer Rattler would end up redshirting, as he was Jalen Hurts' backup, and he would end up appearing in 3 games, where he completed 64% of his passes, threw for 81 yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 interceptions, and on the ground he rushed for 23 total yards. Once the season came to an end with a humiliating playoff loss to the 2019 national champions in LSU, it was officially the start of a new quarterback era at Oklahoma, and that was none other than the Rattler era. As a redshirt freshman, Spencer Rattler was the starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners, and this was the first time in a while that OU was going to have a quarterback that was actually recruited to be a quarterback there out of high school. Now, what I mean by that is that before Spencer Rattler was there, the quarterbacks recently were transfer quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. But this was a new era at Oklahoma. Rattler would impress a lot of people in his first ever collegiate start versus Missouri State. As he completed 14 of 17 passes, he threw for 290 total yards and had 4 touchdowns through the air, leading OU to a 48-0 victory over Missouri State. In his second collegiate start at OU, he would go against Kansas State. Now, if you look at some of these numbers, they're pretty good. Completed 73% of his passes, threw for almost 400 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The problem is, Rattler had 3 interceptions, and OU got upset at home to Kansas State, who was coming off a bad loss to Arkansas State, 38-35. OU would then travel to Ames, Iowa to take on the Iowa State Cyclones, and they would end up losing 37-30, and OU would fall to 1-2, and they would end up taking on Texas the next week, and OU was not ranked. Spencer Rattler had some early struggles this game with turnover issues, and even got benched in the first half. He would end up coming back in the second half as OU's starting quarterback and was nearly perfect and led OU to a 53-45 victory. After that game, Rattler was going off and was nearly perfect, and OU would win out all the way to their final game in the Cotton Bowl, where they won 55-20 versus Florida. Rattler's strong finish to conclude the 2020 campaign made up for his start that he had. In the season in total, in 11 games played, he completed about 68% of his passes, threw for over 3,000 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, while rushing for a total of 6 touchdowns on the ground. Heading into 2021, he was the starting quarterback to no one's surprise, and he was seen as someone that was going to win the Heisman Trophy. He was the preseason Heisman favorite, and people thought he was going to be the number 1 pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Rattler, just like last season early on, was having struggles to open up this season. Now, by no means was it as bad as I would say as last season, as OU was in fact winning games, but the offense did not look like a Lincoln Riley offense. Their first game versus Tulane, they won by 5. Then against Western Carolina, well, of course it was versus Western Carolina, they won 76-0. But next week versus Nebraska, they won by 7, only dropping 23 points. And versus West Virginia, the chant started, "We want Caleb," and they won 16-13. Spencer Rattler would look actually pretty good versus K-State as they won 37-31. Then it was time for the biggest game OU would have all season versus Texas. And Spencer Rattler, unfortunately, would get off to yet another bad start versus the Longhorns back-to-back seasons and get benched. Just this time, he never came back in the game as the starting quarterback. OU would end up winning this game 55-48. And a lot of it was because of the quarterback that came in for Rattler, Caleb Williams. And from that point on, it really seemed like Caleb Williams was the starting quarterback. And to really no one's surprise, Caleb Williams would be named the starting quarterback versus Texas Christian, where they won 52-31. And Caleb Williams has been the starting quarterback ever since. Now, a big part of the video that I kind of want to address with the truth about Spencer Rattler is this part. When Caleb Williams was taking first team reps, as revealed by the OU Daily, the student newspaper at OU, everybody started to make rumors that Spencer Rattler quit on his team. Spencer Rattler left OU, and Spencer Rattler was heading to the transfer portal ASAP. Everybody was saying Spencer Rattler quit on his team this, Spencer Rattler quit on his team that. But in fact, Spencer Rattler never did any of that. Spencer Rattler was with the team the entire time. Spencer Rattler, honestly, is probably one of the most, if not the most hated college athlete in college football right now. And a big reason why is because of QB1. Now, I understand that he was pretty cocky on QB1, but to hate on a player that much, or to say he is a guy who's not a good teammate at all currently because of a series when he was a senior in high school, honestly, doesn't make the most sense to me. I understand that people do not like cocky people, and neither do I. But the thing with me is that people can change, especially from high school to college. Spencer Rattler was the man in high school. Nobody was really competing with him, and he was just that guy right off the bat. I'm not surprised he was cocky in high school at all, and there's a lot of athletes in high school that are very cocky, especially that have such a name that Spencer Rattler would have at the time. And I'm not defending him being cocky at all either, but I'm just saying people can change, especially when you get to the college level where the game is faster, the game is harder, and everybody else there with you were some of the top players at their high schools as well. There's a reason why they're playing college football still. To trace back to an earlier statement that I made about people saying Spencer Rattler's not a good leader, he's just not a good teammate at all, pretty much primarily off that QB1 series. If he's not a good teammate at all, or if he's not a leader at all, why would he be voted by his teammates to be the captain of the team? Now, you may not know this because they don't always show the coin toss in college football, but Spencer Rattler still goes out there for the coin toss before the game. He's still the captain of OU. He was voted by it by the players. And when he's being talked about by players and the coaches at OU, everyone talks about Spencer Rattler highly. Not to mention when he came in this past weekend during a blowout versus Texas Tech in which OU won 52-21, when he threw the touchdown pass to Brian Darby, that was a 40-plus yard touchdown pass through the air. Know what? If his teammates don't like him, and people don't like him at OU, and if he's a quitter, why is everybody celebrating him and dapping him up, doing everything celebrating him after that touchdown? If people didn't like him, why would they do that? Another thing that I don't quite get about Spencer Rattler is that people act like he's a bad quarterback, when in reality, Spencer Rattler, and this is just my opinion, is still a top quarterback in college football. Is he going to enter the transfer portal, or is he going to declare for the 2022 NFL Draft? That's unknown. But I guarantee you, Spencer Rattler is starting for most of the teams right now on the FBS level, and even top teams too. Some people may disagree with that, but Spencer Rattler is still a very good quarterback. Yes, he is not really meeting the expectations that he had this season, but that doesn't change the fact that Spencer Rattler is still a good quarterback. The system that OU has right now fits Caleb Williams a lot better, and Caleb Williams is a straight dog, especially if you watched him this season. 17 total touchdowns and only 1 interception. Not everybody can do that just in a few games. The big point I want to make in this video, or some of the bigger points, is that Spencer Rattler is still a good quarterback. Spencer Rattler is a quarterback that can still do a lot and help a lot of teams win as a starting quarterback, and be a guy who could still compete for a Heisman Trophy in the near future if he does in fact not declare for this upcoming NFL Draft. Not only that, in my opinion, I think Spencer Rattler is negatively viewed in the media and by a lot of college football fans just because of QB1, and I don't think it really makes sense to hate a guy that much or to start up that many rumors about a guy just because of a single series on Netflix, just because of how he acted. I mean, if he was a bad teammate and if he was still this cocky and everybody hated him on his team, why would he still be at Oklahoma? Why wouldn't he have transferred already? And why would he be the captain of the team that was voted by the players? Leave down your thoughts down below about Spencer Rattler and what you think about what I said in this video. Before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out.